Welcome back, my dear followers, or welcome if it's the first time that you are watching my YouTube channel, My Paranormal and Mystery TV. Basic Instinct, the cult erotic thriller film and also controversial film released in 1992. Who was the real killer in Basic Instinct? How does the film really end? Many people still are wondering this question. Did you know that Basic Instinct was based on a true story? And some characters like Nick Carran, played by the great Michael Douglas, and Catherine Trammell, played by the magnificent Sharon Stone, were based on real characters, on a real policeman, on a real fatal woman. Did you know that? In a few minutes, I'm going to make you watch carefully all the details that maybe many of you can have missed in the movie Basic Instinct. I will make you watch carefully all the incredible twists in that erotic thriller and also horror movie. I will explain you better. And then how it really ends up. But before, let me tell you some horror curiosities. I'm not kidding. And also dark, gothic, bloody curiosities. And also hot curiosities. There's nothing to watch under. I'm wearing black panties. So, Basic Instinct, the cult erotic thriller film released in 1992. Director Paul Verhoeven, screenwriter Joe Esteras. And in the cast we have a huge Michael Douglas playing the role of Nick Carran, Sharon Stone, magnificent goddess of beauty, who played the role of Catherine Trammell. Then we have George Zunza, who plays the role of Gus Moran, Jean Triplehorn, playing the role of Beth Garner, Leilani Sarelle playing the part of Roxy Hardy, Wayne Knight playing the role of John Corelli, and many others. As I've just telling you, Sharon Stone was, I think, that no actress could overcome the magnificent, stunning beauty and performance of Sharon Stone. Absolutely magnificent. But think about that Sharon Stone, oh my gosh, was only the 13th choice to play Catherine Trammell. girl. Before, there were 12 actresses, more requested. I'm really stunned, and I'm very happy about, in the end, casting Shadowstone, because I just can't imagine Basic Instinct without Shadowstone. Absolutely wonderful, sexy, absolutely a myth. The first choices were Kim Basinger, Michelle Pfeiffer, Meg Ryan, Ellen Barkin, Gina Davis, Demi Moore, Julia Roberts, Kathleen Turner, and many others. They all refused, so it was the time of the best one, according to me. Of course, Sharon Stone. Think about that there had been an accident on set of Basic Instinct, and Sharon Stone, completely naked and soaked in fake blood, got terrified to have really killed an actor while filming the opening iconic I Speak stabbing scene. She claimed, these are the words by Sharon Stone, "I began to panic. I thought that the retractable fake I Speak had failed to retract, and that I had in fact killed him." The fury of the sequence, coupled with the director screaming, "Hit him! Harder! Harder!" and "More blood! More blood!" as the guy under the bed pumped more fake blood through the prosthetic chest, had already made me weak. She hit the actor so many times in the chest that he laid unconscious. So Sharon Stone stated, "I was horrified, naked, and stained with fake blood. It seemed like there was no line. I wouldn't be asked to skate up to the very edge to make this film." Moreover, Sharon Stone claimed, "My Basic Instinct role was by far the most scratching that I had ever done in terms of considering the dark side of myself. It was terrifying to look into the shadowed self and to release it onto film for the world to see, to allow people to believe that I was like that. Even more, to let myself know that I have or had darkness within." So, let's talk about the controversial leg crossing scene. Sharon Stone claimed that the director Paul Verhoeven had captured her parts in the iconic, now legendary, leg crossing scene where Catherine is being interrogated by the police. Just that scene wasn't in the original script of Esther's, but Verhoeven came up with the idea on set. Shadowstone stated, these are her real words, "I'd been told we can't see anything. I just need you to remove your panties. As the white is reflecting the light, so we know you have panties on." It was only when Shadowstone watched a cut of the movie with a room full of agents, lawyers, producers, and Verhoeven that she saw her genitals on display. She claimed that was how I saw my vagina shot for the first time. I had decisions to make. I went to the projection booth, slapped Paul across the face, left, went to my car and called my lawyer, Marty Singer. I knew what film I was doing. For heaven's sake, I fought for that part, and all the time only the director had stood up for me. I had to find some way to become objective. So I thought, and I chose to allow this scene in the film. Paul Verhoeven replied, "Shadowstone's version is impossible." She knew exactly what we were doing. When my friend told her we could see her vagina, she said, "Of course, that's why I do it." Shadowstone has maintained her account, saying, "Yes, there have been many points of view on this topic, but since I'm the one with the vagina in question, let me say the other points of view are bullshit." And now a creepy horror story, the true story that made the screenwriter Esteras write the script. This is the dark secret of Basic Instinct, because it was based, as I've just told you before, on a true story. That's chilling. Screenwriter and reporter Esteras, who did the script for movies like, for example, Flashdance, before Basic Instinct, had a previous career as a police reporter for Cleveland's The Plain Dealer. Nick is based on a real cop. Catherine is also based on a go-go dancer in Dayton, Ohio. Esteras invited her in a hotel room, and then he found himself held at gunpoint. She told him, "Give me one reason why I shouldn't pull the trigger." And he answered, "I didn't do anything to hurt you. You wanted to come here, and as far as I know, you enjoyed what we just did. And she said, but this is all guys have ever wanted to do with me, and I'm tired of it. And we had a lengthy discussion before she put that gun down. Chilling account. The director, Paul Verhoeven, viewed the script as a modern Hitchcockian thriller. Paul Verhoeven stated at the New York Times, in traditional films, the killer lurks in a house and the victim walks into the kitchen, turns on the radio, makes coffee, opens a book, gets comfortable, and then the killer strikes. In this film, the killer hides, but on the bed. The situation is the same, but the two people are facing each other in bed, not the kitchen. Michael Douglas agreed, viewing Basic Instinct like a detective novel that had a gothic moral question. Is anybody really worthy of redemption? Let's discover it together. Let's watch the twists of the movie. Who the real killer was and how it really ends. And much more. Are you ready? Spoiler alert! Because I'm going to reveal you the plot, the main twists of the plot, the particulars that some of you could have missed, and then I will reveal you how it ends up. So, if you haven't watched Basic Instinct 1992 and you are going to watch it, watch the movie and then, if you want, to watch this documentary. Otherwise, let's watch it. Warning! Some images could disturb the sensitivity of the viewers. I've decided to start with a curiosity and then we delve into the plot and how it ends. I start.
In 1992, Sharon Stone was filmed in an infamous interrogation scene, and one leg crossed later, and the world was hooked on Basic Instinct. This intense for its time erotic thriller follows detective Nick Curran, played by Michael Douglas, who investigates novelist Catherine Trammell after a brutal murder, where lust, desire, and ice picks lead the two into a very turbulent relationship. In this movie that is the embodiment of guilty pleasure, you know what I mean, of which, thanks to its raunchiness, back in the day, probably not many people were admitting to watching it, and yet everyone was still talking about it. Basic Instinct is the creation of its writer, Joe Estorez, who previously co-wrote the script for Flashdance. Basic Instinct's two main characters, Detective Nick Curran and Catherine Trammell, are actually based on two real-life people, to a degree that Estorez has met. Curran is based on a real-life cop that Asturias knew, who seemed to always be involved in shootings and other scrapes. But it kinda came across that he just loved it all a bit too much. So I guess not so much a cop who was passionate about doing the right thing, but maybe one who was looking for a thrill, with the more intense aspect of the job. Trammell, on the other hand, was based on a go-go dancer that Asturias picked up one night, where the two went back to a hotel room to do the spicy tango. You know what I mean? Where the dancer pulled out a gun on Asturias, and when questioned why she is doing this, she replied because that's all men want from her. And after a long conversation and coaxing, Asturias was able to calm this lady down into, not shooting him, and putting the gun down. Phew. It's a big-time actress to be cast in the part, and many actresses were considered, including Kim Basinger, Julia Roberts, Demi Moore, and Michelle Pfeiffer, but none of them wanted to play the part. Pfeiffer in particular felt there was just way too much nudity and wasn't willing to go fully starkers in front of the camera. Supposedly 13 actresses were considered till Verhoeven finally cast Sharon Stone in the part, who once again he previously worked with on Total Recall. Now she wasn't exactly an unknown at the time, but just wasn't a big star yet. But her performance in Basic Instinct was about to change all that.
According to Mental
Floss. When it came to the style of Basic Instinct, Paul Verhoeven and Michael Douglas wanted it to go in the direction of a detective novel, mixed in with a style that pays homage to Alfred Hitchcock. So, a noir Hitchcock movie of the 90s, only with more erotica. And nowhere are the boundaries between tension and lust more evident than in the infamous leg-crossing scene, while the Trammell character is being interrogated by a room of detectives, where of course she flashes her bits. Now, originally the leg crossing scene wasn't in the script, but something that Verhoeven added, as this apparently goes back to his college days, where a female student flashed him in this manner at a college party to tease him or something. And there even was originally shot with Stone wearing undergarments, but Verhoeven asked her if she could take them off and go commando, as he explained that the undergarments were too reflective on camera, and so Stone shot the scene with no underpants. But, according to Stone, she didn't know they were going to use that take for the final film, with her consent, and with the whole world to see. But director Verhoeven insists that Stone was on board with the scene and had no problem with it, and that it was her age.
And now a funny curiosity, for Steven Spielberg was also paying attention to that scene, but for a different reason.
Well, yeah, it seems that none other than Steven Spielberg himself was also paying attention to the interrogation scene in Basic Instinct, but not for the impeccable beauty of Sharon Stone, but rather the impeccable beauty of Wayne Knight. According to IMDb, when watching Basic Instinct, Spielberg knew that he was the right actor to play the part of Dennis Nedry for his then upcoming movie Jurassic Park. However, there was one problem. Spielberg didn't know the actor's name, so Spielberg had to go through the movie's credits to find him, and thus Knight was subsequently cast in Jurassic Park. And speaking of Spielberg, let's not forget the music of Basic Instinct was scored by the legendary Jerry Goldsmith, who also worked with director Paul Verhoeven in Total Recall. Back in the 80s and Floss. As part of Verhoeven's contract, Basic Instinct had to have an R rating. However, upon being inspected by the MPAA, Basic Instinct was hit with an NC-17 rating, thanks to long, drawn-out sex scenes. Verhoeven shot multiple takes of the sex scenes, including close-ups and different angles, in anticipation that the MPAA would have problems with these scenes, so less offensive shots could be used instead. It was when, after pleading with the MPAA for the 8th time, is when the movie was finally given the lower R rating, on the grounds that Basic Instinct is a thriller. So in these scenes where Douglas and Stone are doing the old spicy tango, there's an element of threat that Stone's character could kill Douglas's character, or something like that, which meant the movie could be rated R. Yeah, look, it's a really weird technicality, and I don't fully understand it. In addition to that, about 40 seconds did also have to be trimmed out, and voila, an R rating. Verhoeven was supposedly encouraged by the studio. You know, he was told, hey, we could either make $50 million or $200 million. You know, do the math.
The magnificent Sharon Stone! Listen these curiosities.
Causing the detectives to feel uneasy while still appearing calm and collected. Basic Instinct is more than just a single moment. It is a movie that highlights Sharon Stone's talent for adding complexity to her roles. In the film, Catherine Trammell is portrayed not only as an attractive individual, but also as a skilled manipulator, a clever writer, and potentially a killer. Through Stone's portrayal, the audience is constantly kept in suspense. She portrays Catherine as both threatening and captivating, creating doubt among both the characters within the story and the audience about what is true. Sharon Stone became a prominent figure in Hollywood due to her portrayal in Basic Instinct. The movie's popularity launched her into fame and established her as a top femme fatale in cinematic history. Her role in the film is still revered as an iconic performance in the thriller genre, showcasing her ability to create lasting impressions on audiences. The impact and legacy of Basic Instinct. Having its first showing in Los Angeles on March 18, 1992, Basic Instinct was later released nationwide by TriStar Pictures on March 20, 1992. The movie immediately became a topic of debate, receiving mixed reviews and captivating audiences in a way that few films had done before. Despite generating controversy and polarizing critics, its lasting influence on both film and popular culture cannot be denied. The movie was highly praised for various aspects, such as the remarkable performances of the main actors, the captivating soundtrack, and the precise editing that added to the tension. While Michael Douglas gave a strong performance as Detective Nick Curran, it was Sharon Stone's portrayal of the mysterious Catherine Trammell that stood out. Her portrayal of a character with a mix of charm, intelligence, and danger left a lasting impression on audiences. Critics and viewers alike.
The success of Basic Instinct
was boosted by the controversy surrounding it. Certain organizations objected to its material, while others discussed its ideas and the way the characters were depicted. Nevertheless, controversy tends to attract interest, and in this instance, it benefited the movie. It ended up becoming a huge commercial success, making an astounding $352 million globally. This led to it being ranked as the fourth highest grossing film of 1992, indicating that viewers were enthralled by its blend of mystery, tension, and allure.
And now, are you ready to delve into all the twists of Basic Instinct, into the plot until the end? Okay, we start. This wasn't only an erotic thriller, but also a horror movie. They were strong. Homicide detective.
Detective Nick Curran of San Francisco Police Department is struggling with his own demons. He is derisively nicknamed Shooter after accidentally shooting 2 tourists while high on cocaine during an undercover assignment. He drove his wife to suicide and becomes depressed and begins to abuse alcohol and tobacco. He is the ultimate cop on edge type who follows his impulses as much as he does evidence, and more often than not, confuses the two. At work, they believe that the once good policeman has burned out and are thinking about sending him to rest. However, Nick himself does not want to retire. To cope with depression and addictions, he attends the counseling sessions of a police psychologist.
Nick and his job partner, Gus Moran,
is taken to investigate a terrible murder of a popular rock singer, Johnny Boz, who was stabbed to death with an ice pick. Boz was a retired rock star who never retired from sex and drugs. The preliminary investigation established that the crime occurred while he was having sex with a mysterious blonde woman.
While they are investigating the death of Johnny, killed during a sexual act with multiple stabbings with an ice pick.
His death. Upon arriving, they confirm that Boz was killed with an ice pick. Though uncertain of the maid's involvement, Nick becomes increasingly suspicious of Boz's girlfriend, Catherine Trammell. The detectives head to Catherine's house, where they mistakenly question a woman they assume to be her. She reveals herself as Roxy, a friend of Catherine, and tells them where Catherine is. Despite Roxy's remark that they're wasting their time, the detectives leave without further comment. The detectives then track down Catherine's location. As they begin to introduce themselves, she interrupts, casually revealing that she already knows who they are. With a calm character, she inquires about how Johnny died. After a brief exchange, she tells them she only had a personal relationship with him and firmly instructs them to leave her alone. At the same time, Nick attends a counseling session with the doctor, Beth Garner. He shares that he has been clean from drugs and alcohol for the past 3 months. Their conversation flows effortlessly, touching on personal matters that hint at a deeper connection between the two, revealing a strong bond beyond just a professional relationship. Later, Nick and his detective team hold a meeting to discuss Johnny's death. They come up empty-handed on criminal records, but their attention shifts to Catherine, as she was the last person seen with Johnny. They discover she's wealthy and has written a novel nearly similar to the way Johnny was killed. The team splits in opinion. Some believe Catherine is guilty, while others suspect one of her enemies may have framed her. Nick and Moran head to Catherine's house to bring her in for further questioning. She invites them inside, changes her clothes, and confidently accompanies them downtown. On the way, Moran inquires about her new book, to which she casually replies it's titled Suspension of Disbelief. When Nick asks what the book is about, she unexpectedly reveals that it's about a detective who falls for the wrong woman, only to be killed by her in the end. This revelation deepens Nick's suspicion of her intentions. Catherine remains poised in the interrogation room as the detectives question her one by one. She confidently admits to her relationship with Johnny, stating that they had been involved for a year and a half, during which he brought her considerable pleasure. When they bring up her book, Retired Rock and Roll Star, she dismisses the notion that she'd be foolish enough to openly frame herself in such a way. While denying any involvement in Johnny's death, she begins to shift the conversation by casually mentioning Nick's name, offering him a cigarette, and bringing up unrelated topics, subtly steering the interrogation off course. Catherine then volunteers to take a lie detector test. Surprisingly, the results show no signs of deception, leaving the doctor confused. After the
Nick heads to the bar,
where his detective team is also hanging out. They tease him, suggesting there might be something going on between him and Catherine, but Nick quickly shuts down the idea, insisting there's nothing. As the night progresses, Nick gets into a heated argument with another man who knows about Nick's past, specifically the 2 people he shot. Just as the tension rises, Beth steps in and diffuses the situation, preventing it from escalating further. Beth and Nick head to her home, where they quickly become intimate. Afterward, Beth brings up Catherine, mentioning that she had met her at the Barclay and that they were once in the same class. The conversation takes a turn, and tension builds between them. The next day, Nick
starts following Catherine
with a notorious woman who had brutally stabbed her husband and children without apparent motive, further deepening the mystery surrounding Catherine's connections and intentions. The next morning, Nick visits Catherine at her house. Before heading upstairs, he notices a magazine on the table featuring an article about him. Once upstairs,
I have something against ice cubes.
Catherine casually breaks some ice with an ice pick and hands him a whiskey. She moves closer, revealing intimate details about him. Information that no one should know except for internal affairs. She leans in to kiss him, but despite his hesitation, Nick pulls back, refusing her advances. Just then, Catherine's girlfriend Roxy enters the room, interrupting the moment, and Nick takes the opportunity to leave. Furious, Nick's furious, accusing her of being the one who handed over his file. He angrily tells her to leave, but Beth tries to explain herself. As she speaks, her demeanor shifts, becoming more erratic, which only escalates the tension. Nick, overwhelmed with anger, pushes her away. Eventually, Beth reveals that she gave the file to Nilsson, believing it would somehow help Nick. Though her reasoning doesn't ease his frustration, Nelson is discovered dead in his car, shot in the head at close range. Nick's detective team informs him that the fatal shot came from a .38 caliber revolver. Given Nick's recent heated argument with Nelson, the team begins to suspect him of involvement in the death, putting him under a cloud of suspicion. During the investigation, Nick is questioned about his whereabouts at the time of Nilsson's death. As he attempts to explain Doctor, Beth unexpectedly steps in, stating that she saw Nick at his apartment and was with him for about 15 minutes. Her intervention helps reinforce Nick's alibi, casting doubt on the suspicions against him and persuading the detectives that he might not be Nilsson's killer. Afterward,
Over time, Nick is irresistibly attracted to Catherine. They start a passionate but tense affair that feels like a cat and mouse game. One night, Roxy watches Nick and Catherine make out at a club, and later have rough sex at Catherine's place, with Catherine tying Nick to the bed with a white silk scarf. Although there is no murder attempt, this scene mirrors the way Boz was tied up by the mystery blonde. Jealous of Nick,
The following evening,
Nick heads to the bar to meet his friend Moran, but finds him drunk and angry, having learned that Nick has been sleeping with Catherine. After a tense exchange, the two part ways. As Nick leaves, someone driving Catherine's car suddenly tries to run him down. Fortunately, Nick narrowly escapes and manages to get into his own car, giving chase. The pursuit ends in a crash, and when Nick investigates,
in the accident, Roxy dies.
in his lieutenant, who grows increasingly frustrated with Nick's reckless involvement in the case. Nick attends a meeting with Dr. Myron and Dr. McElwain for a consultation regarding Beth's psychiatric evaluation. However, Nick is dismissive and disrespectful toward both doctors, abruptly leaving the meeting. Beth attempts to intervene. Nick responds coldly and harshly, treating her in a way that shocks her. This sudden change in attitude adds tension between them. Meanwhile, Nick visits Catherine and finds her in tears. Mourning Roxy's death, she confesses that everyone she cares about seems to die, and blames herself for letting Roxy witness her intimate moment with Nick. However, her grief is short-lived, as she and Nick soon end up in bed together. Afterward, Catherine mentions a woman named Lisa, piquing Nick's curiosity and leading him to suspect this unknown Lisa might hold the key to the unfolding mystery. Nick, frustrated in his search for Lisa, visits Catherine, who is with a woman named Hazel. Though Catherine is friendly, Nick is angry, convinced she lied to him. As she tries to leave, he grabs her, demanding the truth. Catherine calmly corrects him, revealing that he misspelled the name, and tells him it's Hoberman. Nick is stunned when he realizes that Lisa Hoberman is actually a doctor. Beth,
You shouldn't leave the door open.
leaving him completely shocked. Nick confronts Beth, asking her to tell him more about Catherine. Realizing that Catherine has already revealed everything about their past, Beth tries to explain herself. She insists that Catherine is manipulating him and explains that she changed her name after getting married, hence why she's now called Beth, and her husband was treated at a clinic in Salinas. Despite her efforts to convince Nick, he remains suspicious and doesn't trust her explanation.
and she admits that she was infatuated with Catherine as a student. However, Beth claims that it was Catherine who became obsessed with her. This conversation makes Nick even more suspicious. Continuing the investigation, he finds
Nick discovers that Beth reveals Nick that she had sex with Catherine too. But then she discovered that Catherine manipulated people and that she was very dangerous. She didn't tell him until that moment because she felt ashamed about that sex she had with Catherine when she was very young. Now Nick investigates deeper.
Finds out that Beth was once married, but her husband was shot many years ago, and the killer was never found. Returning to Catherine, Nick discovers several pages from her new novel. He reads them, and an involuntary chill runs down his spine, as it mentions about a detective who found the dead body of his partner in the elevator. Soon after, Catherine breaks up with him, leaving Nick upset and suspicious. Along with his partner, Gus, Nick travels to meet one of Catherine's old acquaintances to learn about the true nature of the relationship between Catherine and Beth. He himself cannot meet with the woman as he is off the case and sends Gus. When the partner is in the building, Nick suddenly has a hunch, recalling the book's final pages, and rushes after him. He does not have time to help his partner.
With an ice pick, just like in
Nick finds Gus stabbed with an ice pick in the elevator.
Rushing to find the perpetrator, he discovers Beth. She claims that she received a message to meet Gus. When it looks like she's reaching for her gun, believing she is the killer, he shoots her. However, Nick later discovers Beth was only fiddling with an ornament on her keychain. A little later, at Dr. Garner's apartment, the police find direct evidence confirming that she was obsessed with Catherine, and circumstantial evidence of her involvement in the deaths of several people, including Boz, Nielsen, Gus, and her own husband. Confused and dejected, Nick returns home, where he is greeted by Catherine. She explains her reluctance to commit to him due to the deaths of people close to her. However, they have sex, and after a while in bed discuss their future. And under the bed is an ice pick. Knowing exactly this, Catherine, as if by chance...
So, when Nick had just had sex with Catherine, he suggests to raise a family, to live together for the rest of their lives, and to have children. And in that moment, Catherine tries to take a tool under her bed that is an ice pick. So we finally understand that she was the real killer. She made all the proofs to make everybody believe that Beth was the serial killer, but instead she manipulated everybody. And Beth did many mistakes, but she was completely innocent. So even her husband, even Catherine killed even Beth's husband. And also, she killed that musician because he had a relationship with Beth too. So it was really Catherine at that time obsessed with Beth. And when she hears Nick suggesting to have a family and kids, she replies that she hates kids and she's trying to keep the ice pick to kill Nick too. But when Nick tells her that okay, if she hates kids, they will never have kids, but they will keep on staying together and having sex together, She completely understands that Nick is the proper one for her. He's perfect for her. So she feels that she's in love with him because he accepts her for who she really is, and he doesn't care if she's a murderer or not. So at that time, she decides not to kill Nick anymore. In fact, not only Nick, but also you all viewers. When you watch this movie, when Nick enters the house of Catherine and reads how her new novel ends up, the description of the partner of the cop, the murder of the partner of the protagonist policeman is the same murder, then later will happen to Gus, and Nick doesn't care if she is a killer or not, because he is completely into her and accepts her for who she really is. So she understands that he is the perfect man for her, and so she decides not to kill him anymore. In fact, watch. When he says so, she loves Nick.
Oh my god.
And look under the bed. What there was.